Hey there, all you theatrical trivia titans. Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 36 of Broadway Jeopardy. If this is your first time here, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you've been playing for a while now, you should already be subscribed. If not, what are you doing with your life? Subscribe now. I've got 26 all-new clues ready to test your musical-loving minds, so let's get right to this week's game. This is Broadway Jeopardy! Looking at the categories for today's game, we start off, as always, with last week's Final Jeopardy category, which is No Intermission, looking at some one-act musicals. That's followed by Lady in Red. This is a visual category looking at some iconic red outfits worn on stage by some wonderful leading ladies throughout the years. After that, we have Coffee Break, looking at some show tunes dealing with the world's favorite morning beverage. Then we have composers as characters. Like it sounds, we'll be looking at some musicals that have characters who are composers in their show. And last but not least, we have Where's the Cast album? This category looks at some shows that, for some reason, have never released an original cast recording. And we end with the Final Jeopardy round, so keep track of your scores so you know how much you can wager on that final clue. We start off, of course, with the $200 round, or the overture round as I call it, where the questions stay in the shallow end of the difficulty pool before I throw you all in the deep end later in the game. Let's begin with No Intermission, and the first $200 clue. Anna of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Anne Boleyn are characters in this concert-like musical. What is 6 is the answer. The global hit musical has jumped on the pro shot train that many musicals have recently taken, and we will be getting a pro shot of the musical with the original London cast coming back for the recording. The next $200 clue in the Lady in Red visual category is the iconic red dress seen here is known best for descending a staircase in this classic musical comedy. What is Hello Dolly? This is of course the famous red dress worn by Dolly Gallagher Levi as she descends the stairs once more at the Harmonia Gardens restaurant. For the famous film version of the musical, star Barbra Streisand did not wear a red dress in this scene, but a gold one. This was at the request of Miss Streisand, who wanted her Dolly to stand apart from all the others. Pour a cup of joe as we head to the coffee break category and the $200 clue. Introduced in the 1932 musical satire Face the Music, the hit song from the show was Let's Have Another Cup of Coffee, Let's Have Another Piece of This. What is Pie? A 1930s musical in the $200 round? Am I mad? Hopefully, most of you got this one. Face the Music from 1932 featured a score by Irving Berlin and a book by Moss Hart. The musical was about a Broadway producer with show problems, satirizing not only show business, but also widespread corruption in politics and in policing. Sounds like we're due for a revival.
Another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie.
The $200 clue in the composers as characters category is composer Franklin Shepard has a major falling out with his lyricist partner Charlie Kringus in this Sondheim musical. What is Merrily We Roll Along? While the leading role of songwriter Franklin Shepard is not a stand-in for the musical's real-life composer Stephen Sondheim, there are similarities. Sondheim has stated that the number Opening Doors for Merrily is the only autobiographical song he ever wrote.
I finished the one act.
Got an audition.
I started the story.
Rehearsal pianist.
So, where are we eating?
I'm moving to Playboy.
The publisher called me.
I'm doing a rewrite.
My parents are coming.
I saw My Fair Lady.
I rewrote the rewrite.
Sort of enjoyed it.
And finishing off the overture round in the Where's the Cast album category with the $200 clue. The songs of pop icon Britney Spears made up the score of this recent fairy tale inspired musical. What is Once Upon a One More Time? The Britney Spears jukebox musical saw most fairy tale maidens, such as Snow White, Rapunzel, and Cinderella, break free from the confines of their stories and a very charming but empty prince and write their own futures. The musical featured some killer rendition of Britney's vast music library, and it is a shame that no cast recording was made. Luckily, the pro shot, I guess, of one song, Toxic, sung by Jen Simard as Cinderella's wicked stepmother, was filmed and released by the show, and it's a doozy. We'll see how much the copyright people will let me show you of it here, but you should definitely watch the whole thing if you haven't seen it.
With a taste of your lips, I wanna ride. You're toxic. I'm sleeping with a taste of a poison paradise. I'm addicted to you. Don't you know that you're toxic? And I love what you do. Don't you know that you're toxic?
I hope you all danced over that first round. Let's move on to the only slightly harder $400 round now. Circling back to no intermission, your first $400 clue is: this hilarious musical skated onto Broadway in 2007 based on the flop movie musical from 1980 of the same name. What is Xanadu? The cult classic movie musical had been a punchline among theater fans for years until playwright Douglas Carter Beane debuted his campy stage adaptation of the roller disco meets Greek mythology musical. Carrie Butler took on the role of Kira, originated by Olivia Newton-John in the film. Also lacing up their skates for the Broadway production were Cheyenne Jackson as Sunny, the hilarious Mary Testa and Jackie Hoffman as the Muses, and Tony Roberts as Danny, originated in the film version by Gene Kelly. Mr. Roberts, who also appeared on Broadway in shows like Sugar and Victor Victoria, sadly passed away just this last week. Like a poem said by a lady in red, your next $400 visual clue is: the dress seen here was worn during this musical's 11 o'clock number, Gimme Gimme. What is Thoroughly Modern Millie? In the show, based on the movie musical of the same name, Millie Dillmount is finally accepting her feelings for the seemingly poor Jimmy, and she wants that thing called love. Witnessing Sutton Foster perform that number early in the original run of the show from the second row is to this day one of the most thrilling moments in my theatrical viewing life.
Give me that thing called love. I want it.
The $400 clue in the coffee break category is: Bud Frump and the rest of the employees of the Worldwide Wicket Corporation are in desperate need of a coffee break in this 1961 musical. What is How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying? As the clue states, in the musical, Nepo nephew Bud Frump and the ensemble sing the song Coffee Break in the show. The song was recorded and filmed for the 1967 film version of the musical, but was cut before the film's release, though the song was still included on the movie's soundtrack. Sadly, the film number appears to be lost media. Bummer. Next up in the Composers as Characters category, the $400 clue there is: the semi-autobiographical musical Tick Tick Boom was written by this composer/lyricist. Who is Jonathan Larson? The musical began life as a solo show performed by Jonathan Larson at the Second Stage Theater. There, the musical was titled Boho Days. After the tragic passing of Mr. Larson, the musical was revamped by playwright David Auburn as the three-person musical it is today, premiering off-Broadway in 2001, starring Raul Esparza, Jerry Dixon, and Amy Spanger. The final $400 clue in the Where's the Cast album category is: all three vampire-based Broadway musicals failed to receive cast recordings, including this one, based on the novels of Anne Rice. What is Lestat is the right answer. One of the closest times I've ever come to walking out of a theater at intermission. I did not, but I thought about it. Anyway, no shade to all my Lestat-loving friends out there. There is no denying, though, that one of the most requested cast albums never released is definitely Lestat, with a score by Sir Elton John and Bernie Taupin. I remember there were petitions being passed around events like the Broadway Flea Market for years, begging the producers to release the cast album of Lestat. The cast album was recorded and a release date was planned, but the album remains locked away in cast recording purgatory somewhere. Flying right into the $600 round now, back in the no intermission category with the $600 clue. In the last 5 years, struggling actress Kathy sings of spending an interesting summer in this US state. What is Ohio is the correct answer. The song A Summer in Ohio is a hilarious number recalling Kathy's time in Summer Stock Theater, where she did a production of Fiddler on the Roof and Porgy and Bess starring a little person named Carl, while she shares a room with a former stripper and her snake named Wayne. Sounds like one heck of a summer. Looking at a lovely lady in red, the $600 visual clue there is the familiar red outfit seen here from A Chorus Line is worn by this character in the show. Who is Cassie? Created by Broadway legend Donna McKechnie, Cassie's career was on the rise, but she is now back looking to join the chorus. She finds some resistance, however, from Zach, the show's new director and Cassie's former lover. But all Cassie wants is the music and the mirror. Going way back in time with the coffee break category now and the $600 clue. According to the song added to the 1927 musical Good News, you're the this in my coffee. What is cream is the answer. You're the cream in my coffee. The song was not in the original stage production of Good News from 1927 by the team of De Silva, Brown, and Henderson. It actually premiered in another musical by the trio called Hold Everything. The trio of B.G. De Silva, Lou Brown, and Ray Henderson wrote several of the most popular musicals of the 1920s, mostly all involve a sport. Good News involves football, Hold Everything was about boxing, and another show of theirs, Follow Through, was about golf. The version of Good News you would license today contains several songs like You're the Cream in My Coffee from other De Silva, Brown, and Henderson musicals. The $600 clue in the Composers as Characters category is amateur composers Bud and Doug try to sell the audience on their new musical, a highly fictionalized account of the invention of the printing press in this two-person musical comedy. What is Gutenberg the Musical is the correct answer. Gutenberg the Musical is about two friends and writing partners, Bud Davenport and Doug Simon, who have written a musical called Gutenberg the Musical, and they try to sell the audience essentially in one big backers audition. And the pair proceed to perform the show for the audiences, playing all the roles with the help of hats that say each character's name. The musical played a successful off-Broadway run in 2006, and recently in 2023, the musical finally reached Broadway proper in a revival starring Josh Gad and Andrew Rannells.
I've got to do it! Helvetica bends the bars, steps out onto the ledge, and prepares to jump. Whee! I'm flying! Helvetica soars over the town of Schlimmer. Goodbye, rats. Goodbye, feces.
Let's wonder where that darn cast album is again with the $600 clue. This 2016 musical about the creation of another landmark musical from 1921 received no cast recording despite its A-list cast. What is Shuffle Along? I'll give you an extra 200 points if you knew that the full title of the 2016 musical is Shuffle Along, or the making of the musical sensation of 1921 and all that followed.
That was a mouthful.
The musical featured the songs from the original Shuffle Along by Eubie Blake and Noble Sissel, and it featured a new book by the show's director, George C. Wolfe. The all-star cast portraying the trailblazing company of Shuffle Along included Brian Stokes Mitchell, Billy Porter, Josh Henry, Brandon Victor Dixon, Brooks Eschmankis, Adrian Warren, Amber Iman, and the one and only Audra McDonald, who tap danced up a storm while being very much pregnant at the time. The musical received 10 Tony nominations, sadly winning 0, yet it did win the Drama Desk for Best New Musical. It's time to really turn up the challenge level with the $800 round now, but before we do, if you're enjoying this week's game and finding some value in it, please do me the biggest favor and hit that like button for me. It really helps the almighty YouTube algorithm show these videos to more fine folks like yourselves, but also gives me the warm fuzzies. Thank you all, I truly do appreciate it. Okay, let's shuffle off to the $800 round now. No rest for the no intermission category, and the $800 clue. This currently running sleeper hit features a plant named Huaboon in the show. What is maybe happy ending is the right answer. There are two types of people playing right now, those that had no idea what the answer was, and those that are freaking out over how much they love Huaboon. Because to know Huaboon is to love Huaboon. Maybe Happy Ending is the brand new, completely original musical that is everyone's favorite new show. Honestly, if you want to know my personal current recommendation on what to see in New York, it's definitely 100% Maybe Happy Ending. I've seen it 3 times and cannot wait to go back. I don't want to spoil too much here for those that haven't had the chance to see it yet, but it's about 2 now obsolete robots in the not too distant future who find each other and set off on an adventure together.
My expectations and fears,
Small adventure, I guess it's been a few years.
and I know
This might even be fun.
when the packing is done, I'm finally hitting the road. And no matter where and how far you drive,
People say you're different when you
arrive underneath an unfamiliar sky. Now my own concerns no longer cry.
The Lady in Red category gives us the $800 visual clue. Based on the rom-com of the same name, the red dress seen here was worn to the opera by leading Lady Vivian in this musical. What is Pretty Woman? The extremely faithful stage adaptation of the Julia Roberts-Richard Gere film of the same name opened on Broadway in 2018. The musical stars Samantha Barks, making her Broadway debut as Vivian, the streetwalker turned socialite. Tony winner Steve Kazee was originally announced as Edward, the wealthy lawyer in need of companionship, but he had to withdraw after the show's pre-Broadway tryout in Chicago for family reasons, and he was replaced with Andy Carl for the Broadway run. The light and sweet $800 clue in the coffee break category is, according to waitresses Fritzy and Melba in the musical 70 Girls 70, the trouble with the world today is coffee in this. What is a cardboard cup is the answer. Coffee in a Cardboard Cup from 70 Girls 70 was written by John Kander and Fred Ebb. The short-lived show is a very interesting one. On the surface, it's a roundabout adaptation of the film Make Mine Mink about a group of old folks who, to save their retirement hotel and enjoy their remaining years, take to a life of crime, stealing expensive fur coats. But the show had another meta level as well, where the performers broke the fourth wall and spoke and sang directly to the audience and introduced songs that really have barely anything to do with the plot, Coffee in a Cardboard Cup being a prime example. Despite its razor-thin connection to the story, the song Coffee in a Cardboard Cup was one of the musical's lasting numbers, being used in the Kander and Ebb review And the World Goes Round, and performed in concert by the likes of Mandy Patinkin.
The trouble with the world today, it seems to me, is coffee in a cardboard cup. The trouble with the affluent society is coffee in a cardboard cup. No one's ever casual or nonchalant. No one wastes a minute in a restaurant. No one wants a waitress passing pleasantries like, "Hiya, miss." "Hiya, sir. May I take your order, please?"
Looking at a murder mystery musical in the composers as characters category with the $800 clue. In Kander and Ebb's Curtains, the new musical by composer Aaron Fox that's shut down due to a murder is a Western version of this storybook legend. What is Robin Hood is the answer. The backstage musical Curtains opens with a number from the show within a show, Robin Hood, a Western version of the Robin Hood legend, featuring a sharpshooter named Rob Hood, a schoolmarm named Miss Nancy, and Madame Marian, played by washed-up diva Jessica Crenshaw in the show. As the cast sing a song from the show within a show, Wide Open Spaces, it's clear that the leading lady cannot sing, dance, or act.
A triple threat.
As the cast take their bows after that number, the star drops dead. Who killed her? Well, you gotta watch the show to find that out, silly. And wondering yet again, where's the cast album? With the $800 clue. This musical, set during the New York draft riots of 1863, featured the powerful song Let It Burn, which its star performed on the Tony Awards. What is Paradise Square is the answer. This is another instance of an original cast recording being recorded and ready for release, but other circumstances have prevented it from coming out. In the case of Paradise Square, the reason the cast recording hasn't seen the light of day is the musical's infamously delinquent producer, Garth Drabinsky. Canadian Garth Drabinsky was a major Broadway producer in the 1990s and is responsible for bringing in major productions like Ragtime and Fosse, as well as the Canadian premieres of several high-profile musicals. But long story short, Drabinsky kept 2 sets of accounting books and eventually got busted, landing him in prison for fraud. After his release, he came back to Broadway with Paradise Square, but his comeback was short-lived after numerous complaints from the show's cast and crew, and piles of unpaid bills landed him on the do not work list from Actors Equity, and the original cast recording of Paradise Square languishes on a shelf because of it. At least we'll always have the musical's powerful Tony performance. We've reached the next level, my friends. The big show, the main event. It's the $1,000 round. Give me that dramatic music. Good luck, players. Back one last time with the no intermission category. Your $1,000 clue there is... Premiering off-Broadway in 1993, this musical, with a score by Michael John LaChiusa, features 10 scenes in each decade of the 20th century. What is Hello Again is the answer. Based on the French play La Ronde from 1897, the musical is 10 interlocking scenes between 2 people either right before or right after a carnal dalliance, he said, trying to keep things PG rated. And as the clue stated, each scene takes place in a different decade of the 20th century. The musical, with a book, music, and lyrics by Michael John LaChiusa, originally opened off-Broadway at Lincoln Center's Mitzi E. Newhouse Theater in 1993 and starred Donna Murphy, Carolee Carmello, Malcolm Getz, and John Cameron Mitchell, among others. Our last lady in red for $1,000 is... The fantastical red outfit seen here was worn by actress Kate Shindle in this flop musical from Frank Wildhorn in 2011. What is Wonderland is the correct answer. As you probably deduced, Wonderland is a reimagining of the Alice in Wonderland story. Which is smart, you know? Stories like Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan just don't have enough adaptations out there. Wonderland follows an adult Alice, a writer with marital problems, who hits her head and awakens in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter, played by Kate Shindle, is the main antagonist in this version, wanting to rule Wonderland herself. The musical opened on April 17th, 2011, and after pans from the critics, closed a month later on May 15th. The last sip of the coffee break category for $1,000 is Josh Baskin feels like a new man and demands coffee black from his confused secretary in this movie-based musical from 1996. What is Big, the musical, is the right answer. Based, of course, on the Tom Hanks film of the same name, the musical just recently made its West End debut in 2019, starring British boy band The Wanted's lead singer, Jay McGuinness. The $1,000 clue in the Composers as Characters category is this 1979 musical is about composer Vernon and his new lyricist Sonia. The pair are a stand-in for the musical's own composer and lyricist Marvin Hamlish and Carol Bayer Sager. What is They're Playing Our Song is the right answer. The show is sort of a two-person musical. Both Vernon and Sonia have 3 inner voices each who help sing out the inner thoughts of the leading pair. The original Vernon and Sonia were Robert Klein and Lucy Arnaz, daughter of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, making her Broadway debut. The hit musical ran for almost 3 years, and some of the replacement casts included the late Tony Roberts, Stockard Channing, and Anita Gillette. Also, if you're a soap fan, Diana Canova, who played Corinne, and Ted Wass, who played Danny, also replaced in the show's run. That would have been really fun to see. Another great cast was the first national tour with Victor Garber and Ellen Greene, famous for her Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors, leading the show. The film rights to the musical were bought and a film was planned by producer Ray Stark to release in 1982, but nothing ever came of it. In the curtain call clue in the Where's the Cast album category for $1,000 is this jukebox musical from 2013 was about the life of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach and his unlikely friendship with jazz singer Nina Simone. What is Soul Doctor is the answer. What, you're telling me you don't remember the Shlomo Carlebach jukebox musical on Broadway? I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Soul Doctor, which had the subtitle Journey of a Rock Star Rabbi, played Broadway's Circle in the Square Theater opening in summer of 2013. The musical is about the real-life singing rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, who broke with Jewish tradition, singing his own music and performing for women and non-Jewish audiences. Eric Anderson starred as the rock star rabbi, with Amber Iman as jazz legend Nina Simone. The show lasted about 3 months on Broadway, including previews. And now we've arrived at the final Jeopardy round, y'all. Time to tally up those scores and decide how much you want to wager in the category It Started at Encores, looking at some wonderful Broadway revivals that began life as part of the City Center Encores series. Okay, has everyone made their wagers? Christopher? Julie? Jenny? Okay, here is your final clue. A revival of this 1947 musical starred Jim Norton, Kate Baldwin, and Cheyenne Jackson, both at Encores and then on Broadway proper. What is Finian's Rainbow is the answer. After starting at Encores in spring of 2009, the musical transferred to the large St. James Theater on Broadway later that same year. Much of the Encores cast transferred with the show, with Chris Fitzgerald assuming the role of the leprechaun Og. The classic satirical musical, with a score by Burton Lane and Yip Harburg, was forced to cut its Broadway run short, though, due to slow ticket sales. Broadway pariah Garth Drabinsky offered to come in as producer and help the show continue to play, but the producers of the revival wisely refused his offer. And that's this week's game! Huzzah! How did you all make out this week? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys and seeing your scores. If you enjoy Broadway Jeopardy and want to help support it, there are a few great ways to do so. The easiest way is to share these videos with everyone on social media and recommend it to everybody you know. It really helps more than you know, and I'd really love to grow the audience of these videos. A huge way to support me in the channel is to be like these wonderful people over here who have joined my Patreon. You guys are truly the backbone of the channel, and I could not keep making these videos if it wasn't for y'all and your support. You can check out my Patreon if you wish by clicking the link in the video description. There is also a link to my merch shop where I have just put out a Broadway Jeopardy champion design. What better way to tell people about Broadway Jeopardy, support the channel, and brag about how awesome you are than with a shirt letting everyone know that you are a Broadway Jeopardy champion. And if you do get the shirt, or really any of the shirts in my merch shop, send me a picture of you wearing it, and I will be thrilled to put your photo up on screen during a future episode and give you a little shout out. You can follow me over on Blue Sky if you want to connect outside of YouTube. Send me a little message saying you watch the channel and I'll be sure to follow you back. I will be back next week with episode 37, but until then, I'm Mark Benani. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for playing.